Good afternoon, everyone. I am Devasis Mitra, Assistant Professor of GEC. I am making this audio clip to make you understand about Prezi. I just took the class, but due to some network error for some time, it was not possible to make you understand. So, this is the extended version of my lecture. Hope it will help you. Now, what is a Prezi? Prezi, first of all, you must know that Prezi is not an English word. This is a French word, and you can identify in looking at the mark above E. You can see the mark above E. So this is pronounced as Prezi, Precis. Prezi refers to the gist of a longer passage. It preserves the core points of the text. Suppose if the original passage is given to you in your exam, so you have to make a Prezi out of it. How to make a Prezi out of it? You have to be aware of certain rules while dealing with Prezi. Now, basically, this is a shortened summary of a written work, as I told you in my lecture. It mainly captures the focused ideas and the substantial material of the original work. You know all these things. Next is, now why is Prezi important? Nowadays we don't have enough time to read long passages. So we always follow shorthand or the write-up. So that's why Prezi becomes important in present time. And I can show you some advantages of Prezi writing. I already shared the PPT which I made. You can go through that PPT while listening to this audio clip. Now let's get back to the advantages of Prezi writing. Number one, if you learn Prezi writing, it will definitely help you to become a careful reader. Because while dealing with Prezi, it requires an understanding to know what is essential and what is not essential. While going through the original passage, you have to sum up that what is essential, what is important, what is not important. What is not important must be removed, वो हटाना है. जितने सारे चीज़ें माइनर पॉइंट्स है वो सब माइनर पॉइंट्स को हटाना है और जो एसेंशियल रिलेवेंट पॉइंट है वो हमें लेना है. नेक्स्ट इज it also improves vocabulary as one has to write Prezi in his or her own words. You have to use your own vocabulary. It is very much important. And next is you have to improve creative writing as one has to write the essence of the text. One has to write the gist of the text, gist of the original passage. So these are some of the advantages of Prezi writing. First, it helps you to become a careful reader, means you have to carefully read the original passage. Then you have to identify what is essential and what is not essential, what is most important and what is not so important. Which are not so important, you have to remove them. Basically, you have to shorten the passage. You have to shorten the original passage. This is the first rule of Prezi writing, that you have to shorten it as less as possible, but without changing any meaning of the original passage. Let's go to the next point. As I also told you that what are the alarming elements for Prezi writing? I mean, what are the things that you should keep in mind while dealing with Prezi writing? Number one, it has to be 1/3 of the original passage. For example, suppose the original passage is about 400 words or 200 words. So you have to make it 1/3 of it. Suppose it is 100 words, so you have to make it within 40 to 50, not more than that. You have to be very technical about the counts, counts of the words. Next is clarity. You must have a sense of clarity, whatever you are understanding and whatever is written in the Original passage must be the same, meaning should not change at all. Next point is correctness. Correctness must be there. You are reading and you are understanding a different point, and the another point is written in the original passage, so it can make a mistake. So you have to be aware what you are understanding is right or wrong. That's why you have to go through repetitive reading time and again and again. You have to read word by word, expression by expression, sentences by sentences. Now there is one more important point which you should keep in mind, that is unbiased viewpoints or objective point of view. You must have an objective point of view. You must have a subjective. You must not have an objective point of view. I mean, your Prezi must be followed with unbiased points. You cannot include your personal remarks, your personal interpretations, or any kind of personal analysis. Your Prezi must be free from any kind of partial or biased points. Next point was coherence. Coherence means systematic. It has to be systematic. Suppose ओरिजिनल पैसेज जो है, उस पैसेज में जो पॉइंट्स है उसमें हम क्या करना है, मान लो मैंने जैसे बताया कि ओरिजिनल पैसेज है तो उसको हमें शॉर्टन करना है. शॉर्टन करने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि एक पैराग्राफ से 2 लाइन ले लिए, दूसरे पैराग्राफ से 2 लाइन ले लिए और लास्ट पैराग्राफ से 2 लाइन ले लिए, 5-6 लाइन करके हो गया, शॉर्टन हो गया, प्रेसी हो गया. नो, दिस इज़ नॉट द वे टू डील विथ प्रेसी. इसमें कोहेरेंस बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट एक एलिमेंट है. कोहेरेंस मतलब सिस्टमेटिक. ये एक सिस्टमेटिक लिंक होना चाहिए यहाँ पे. वन सेंटेंस टू अनदर सेंटेंस मस्ट बी फॉलोड विथ अ सिस्टमेटिक लिंक. एक लिंक होना बहुत ही ज़रूरी है. कंप्लीटनेस. कंप्लीटनेस मतलब क्या है? Whenever you are reading the original passage, you must go through again and again. As I repeating, you have to go through again and again. Whatever you are writing, हो सकता है ये जो प्रेसी है ये 4 लाइन या 5 लाइन का हो, लेकिन वो 4 लाइन 5 लाइन must be written in a complete manner. एक completeness होना चाहिए, complete meaning convey करे, ऐसा sense होना चाहिए. So even in the 4 to 5 lines of your Prezi, it must include introduction and the essential points and a proper conclusion. Next, which is technically very much important, that is indirect speech. You cannot use I, you, we. This kind of first person narration or second person narration are not allowed. You have to stick to indirect speech, not direct, very much indirect, and you have to write the whole Prezi in a third person narration. Next point, different wording. In the original passage you will get to see that there are some specific terms, some legal terms, some social terms, various terms may be mentioned, but no need to change them. You can keep those terms as it is, but you must change the use of words, use of vocabulary in sentences while expressing. So you have to be aware of using your vocabulary. You cannot repeat the same sentences. You cannot copy the exact sentences. You have to change the sentences, change the words exclusively, and you have to have your own vocabulary, but keep it in mind without changing any meaning of the original passage. Now the last alarming elements for Prezi is about that you have to make it in a single paragraph. It has to be in a single paragraph. Original passage can be of more than 2 paragraphs, 5, 6, 8 paragraphs. It can be longer, but your Prezi must be in a single paragraph. Just one paragraph will be there. Now let's move on to another point, that is, what are the steps for Prezi writing? Now there are some steps. Basically there is no hard and fast rule, no technical rule as such to write a Prezi, but still there are some steps which you have to keep it in mind. First step is to write down the key points of the text you think is important. While reading the passage, while going through the original passage, you have to highlight the key points. You have to underline the key points. You can underline, you can write in the rough side. Then you have to think what is important, whether the key points are important or not. Next step, that you have to identify the purpose of the writing. जो ओरिजिनल पैसेज दिया गया है, वो पैसेज किस बारे में है, व्हाट्स द पैराग्राफ इज ऑल अबाउट. You have to identify the purpose, the main motto, the main objective of the passage. This idea has to be clear in your mind. Next point is you can build a rough draft around the purpose. When you will read the passage, definitely you will think over it, and whenever you will think over it, you will try to identify what the passage is all about. Is it about social issue, cultural issue, or any current affairs? So you have to identify the exact topic mentioned in the original passage. You have to identify it, because it will not have any title, because you have to frame the title after writing the Prezi. You have to frame the title, keep it in mind. Now, while reading the original text, you have to read it repeatedly, and then you will get to see if your points remain the same or not. When you will jot down some points, after jotting down the points, you will tally, you will compare that the points that you have written are same with the original passage or not. ये पहले करना बहुत ही ज़रूरी है. Your points, your understanding and the passage given to you, दोनों point of view clear होना चाहिए, मतलब same होना चाहिए. Next is you should compare with the original work to see if the essence is fully preserved. You have to be aware that the points that you have written down, the idea that you have written down is suitable to the original passage or not. Then finally, you have to, after writing the Prezi in a shortened way, you have to frame a title, because this is much important. Keep it in mind that writing a Prezi without a title is useless. Prezi has no backbone without its title. Its title has to be there. Without title, Prezi cannot be complete. Now, on the other hand, there are some challenges in Prezi writing. It is not so easy because it includes so many technical aspects in it. Now, there are some two standard challenges. Number one is that identifying the key points. Sometimes the content of the original passage is standard, difficult words, difficult sentences, elaborate discussions, many illustrations, many examples. So sometimes it becomes difficult to identify what is the exact idea of the original passage. So for that, you have to go through the passage repeatedly, and specifically you have to go through word by word, sentence by sentence, expression by expression, phrase by phrase. Then you have to identify the key points that is being conveyed in the original passage. Next major challenge is that you have to converting the points to your own words. Sometimes it becomes challenging for us, that if you have a shortage of vocabulary, then it's very difficult to convert the sentences in your own words. So because you cannot copy the exact sentences from the original text. You have to be very careful while writing your Prezi, because you cannot you cannot repeat the same words, you cannot repeat the same expressions. Definitely specific terms will remain the same, but the use of words, vocabulary in general statement has to be changed. You cannot repeat them. So these are the two major challenges that often happen in Prezi writing. So it may come in the form of an important question that what are the challenges in Prezi writing. Number one is identifying the key points. What are the challenges while identifying, and what are the challenges when attempting to convert the points to your own words. Now there are some do's and don'ts in Prezi writing. You have to be careful what to do and what not to do in Prezi writing. Number one, you do not judge the original text. This is most important. Your job is to pick up the essence of the text without repeating any unnecessary details. You should not include your personal comments. You should not include your personal interpretations at all. You have to write the gist, just the main essence of the original passage. Do not refer to the original text. It is the summary of the text, and do not make any comparison to the text with your Prezi. You cannot make a comparison that this Prezi is good, is bad, and my Prezi is good. No, it's not like that. It can happen that ideas are there, you may not suggest, you may not agree with the points that are given in the Prezi, but this is not the platform to give space to your personal point of view about the topic. You have to just sum up, you have to just extract the essence of the passage. Do not use abbreviations or any sort of contractions. You cannot use any such things. Always use past tense while writing history. Suppose something which already happened in the past, mainly related to history, so you have to write it in past tense. Now let's come on to the another point of view which often occurs in terms of difference. What is the difference between Prezi and comprehension? Prezi, short summary of the original text, and comprehension means understanding. Comprehension means understanding. You may get comprehension also in your exam. Suppose there will be a passage, and out of that and you have to read the passage carefully, and you have to follow some questions, and you have to answer some questions which will be given to you. But comprehension is a little difficult than Prezi, because in the comprehension you will see that you have to have your own understanding, you have to have your own personal interpretation to decode the meaning of the comprehension given in the form of a passage. Now basic difference between them: Prezi gives a summary of the original text. It requires a thorough understanding of the text or the passage given to you. On the other hand, comparison is a test for the level of understanding of the text. It is basically to test your understandability. It is basically a test whether you understand the lines, the words, the meaning, the topic or not, and that will be tested in the form of questions, in the form of vocabulary, in the form of fill in the blanks, etc. Now on the other hand, in comparison to Prezi, comprehension is a test of the level of understanding of by recognizing the words and their contextual meaning. You have to find out the context, in which context it is said, in which context this message is being conveyed. So basically it asks for a test to show your ability in word recognition. Now in the PPT you can see in the 9th slide I shared a diagram that is basically the rules for Prezi building. What are the rules that you always keep in mind while dealing with Prezi? Careful reading. I told you, you have to have a careful reading of the original text. You must have an outline. I mean, what is the exact idea, what the topic, what the passage is all about. You have to identify the purpose, the content, the essential aspect of the passage. Next is understanding. You should have a proper understanding of the original passage. For proper understanding, you must have a careful and thorough reading, repetitive reading of the text. Next is underlining. While reading the text, you must underline the key points. As I told you before, you have to underline the key points so that it will help you better to make your Prezi in a complete manner. Then omission. Omission means to omit, to remove something. What to remove? The minor points, examples, other illustrations, other elaborate discussions. You have to omit these minor non-essential details from the original passage. Next point is don't omit. What not to omit? You should not omit the essential points, the main essence of the text. Suppose you write in Prezi the examples, illustrations without conveying the main message, main essence of the text, so it would not be complete Prezi. Next point is length. In case of Prezi, length matters a lot. Length is very much important aspect in Prezi building, because suppose, as I told you in the first slide, that length should be 1/3 of the original passage. It must be 1/3. Suppose the original passage is of 100 words or 200 words, so you have to make it 1/3 of it. Suppose it is 100 words, so you have to stick to 40 to 50 words. Another rule is that indirect speech, you should not use I believe or I think or you said or he said. No, you cannot use first person narration and second person narration. You have to use only third person narration, I mean indirect speech, or in passive form, like it has been believed, it is told, this is the point of view. Okay, this is how you have to write. You cannot use first person or second person. Own wording or different wording. Alarming points, you remember. Own wording. In the passage, you will get to see many terms which cannot be changed. You keep them as it is, but you must change the use of expressions, the use of words, the use of vocabulary in general manner that are used in the original text. Next is, you must avoid giving comments. You must avoid giving your personal diplomatic comments. You have to keep away from showing your comments. Next is tense and person. As I told you, that it must be in a present tense or past tense. Like if it is a matter of history, then you have to write it in a past tense, and that person must be third person. And the most important rule for Prezi building is that you cannot change the meaning. Even within 4-line or 5-line Prezi, you cannot change the meaning of the original text. Your meaning should remain the same as it is mentioned in the original passage. Next is art of compression. Compression. Compress करना मतलब छोटा करना. You have to compact it. You have to shorten it, but without changing any meaning. Next is rereading. You have to reread. You have to keep rereading of the original passage. This is most important while dealing with Prezi building. This is the foremost element for Prezi. Without rereading, without repetitive reading of the original passage, you cannot write Prezi. So that's why you have to read word by word, sentence to sentence. And the last point is conclusion. As I told you again that even within the 4 or 5 sentenced Prezi, it has to have a proper format, a proper points of view. Like it has to be followed by introduction, then the essence, ideas, and followed by conclusion. So the basic rules are there which I told you: careful reading, outline, understanding, underlining, omission, don't omit, length, indirect speech, different wording, avoiding giving comments, tense and person, no change in meaning, art of compression, rereading, and conclusion. Now, lastly, I would like to say that first you must read the passage time and again until you get the meaning of the whole text. Sometimes you will get to see some difficult passages given to you and you don't know most of the words used in the original passage. So it becomes quite difficult for us to extract the basic idea of the original passage given. So the more you read, the more familiar it will become to you. You have to keep reading and reading, and then you will find the key sentences. And don't forget to frame a title after writing a Prezi. I told you that without title, Prezi is useless. Prezi is not complete in itself without a proper title. That title has to be suitable. It must suit to the body of your Prezi. Okay, I hope this audio clip would help you for a better understanding of Prezi. What is Prezi, what are the advantages of Prezi, and alarming elements of Prezi, and steps of Prezi, challenges of Prezi, do's and don'ts, and some basic important rules for Prezi building. So hope you will understand better and you will have notes in your own way for your exam. So thank you and take care of yourself. Stay safe.